Hello and welcome to the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. Every guest I have on is special, but I have a really special guest here today that I'm insanely jealous about because Mike Slayen with Guitar Aces is a musician, and it's something I've always wanted to do, and I don't know if I really have the skill to do it. So, good morning, Mike. How you doing today?
Good, brother. Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, no problem. So, Mike reached out to me after my frustration podcast, which funny enough, I thought that was going to be a bad podcast and people were going to criticize me, but I've actually got a lot of positive results from that. And Mike's a small business owner. I met Mike through the Poway Chamber of Commerce, and he's frustrated, just like all of us after COVID, and small businesses, and there's all these magic pills you can take, and no magic pill works. It's always trial and error, and sometimes trial and error gets expensive. So I guess first of all, Mike, tell us a little bit about your business and what exactly you do.
So yeah, the business is called the Guitar Aces. My brother-in-law gives me a hard time because I say he thinks I'm like the Ohio State or something. You know how they think they're.
I always said the Costco, and because remember it used to be the Price Club.
Right.
My wife always kids me because I'll say, let's go to the Costco, and she's like, it's just Costco. But go ahead.
Nice, I like it. Yeah, so it's the Guitar Aces. I've been in Poway basically since 99, 98. Started teaching at Ozzy's Music when it was Ozzy's Music.
Also a long time ago.
Yeah. It's not Ozzy's Music anymore. It says Ozzy's Music, but it's owned by Bertrand's, and they're good guys. But Ozzy's it was a different place for sure. So I started teaching there. I was there about 12 years. And then they basically were downsizing, and I taught classes, so I needed a big room.
Right.
So I got the heave ho. They felt horrible, of course, but I had to go. And then I did hook up with Bertrand's. They had a little place across Poway Road, and I taught over there for a few years. And I'm like, you know what? I'm a grown man. It's time to step out on my own, Yeah. And my initial goal, just like every business owner, was I'm going to take down Guitar Center, and I'm going to take down all the big guys because I'm going to be better and bigger. And it's probably not the best attitude to go into with things like. I think it is a good attitude.
Well, you got to think big,
Yeah, you got to think big, but you got to work baby steps, right? So anyways, when I started 25 years ago, I've been teaching since forever. Like I was 17 or something. I started teaching neighborhood kids and stuff. So, and I'm only 25 now, so it hasn't been that long. Yeah, people always ask me, how long have you been playing guitar? And I'm like, don't ask me that. I was a kid, and now I'm really old. So anyways, I got my degrees in college, music degrees. They turn out they're almost as good as family studies or where they take now, that we tell our kids.
When I was in the grocery business, I was a manager at 19, and I had like 3 guys that had master's degrees.
Working underneath you, right?
Yeah, they had what do you call it? Oceanography type degrees. And these guys would go all to school, and then oceanography didn't pay anything, right? It's all research stuff. And,
Well, it's good because that was one of the things I actually was interested in when I was a kid.
Right.
So it's good to know I would have been a struggling.
You would have been working as a struggling
oceanographer, yeah. So my path in life has been carved. Anyway, so yeah, I got my degrees, and it's like, oh, what am I going to do? It's like I thought I was just going to go out and get a junior college professor job, and I could have done that. I would have had to move to Kansas or even deeper into the country somewhere to get started. And it probably would have took 10, 15 years before I could have even moved out this way. And I'm born and raised in San Diego. It just wasn't going to happen that way. So anyways, long and short, I saw this ad about a guy that teaches, had a program for teaching kids. And it was kind of a national program. And you basically buy a license or a franchise for that.
Okay.
I'm like, damn, that's like something, and you go out and train. So I went out to Austin and trained with a guy, and he taught me some business things, nothing that like we don't talk about on Tuesday mornings at the chamber when we used to meet. He thought he was bitching. He thought he was reinventing the wheel all the time. Anyways, he did have a good program for teaching kids, a good way to do it. And so I started that franchise, and I moved to Ozzy's Music and started it. And it's basically teaching kids 5 to 12 preteens. And I was like, are you kidding me, man? I got my music degrees. I'm going to teach little kids how to play guitar. This is my
Right.
life, you know? And you're not required, but you were strongly encouraged to encourage parents to attend the lessons.
Right.
And I'm like, oh man, what am I getting into, you know? But there's nothing better than having parents at the lessons. For one, I don't have to be a disciplinarian if that ever comes up, which rarely does.
Right. Right.
But if they drop you off, you're the babysitter. If they go to your house or your place of business, they drop the kid off. They don't even step out of the car. Kid goes in with a check once a month, and then they go get gas or get lunch or listen to
Right.
podcasts, whatever they do. Come back. You're the first person they're going to cut when times get tough. But when they sit in there and they talk to you every week and they see how you work with their kids, it's like
A little more invested.
yeah, it's invested, and they're like, God, you know, I mean, I know what he's doing. I know what he's teaching. No kids practice.
Well, and
Zero.
we know that when you're working with kids these days, especially, it's it's scary, right? You never know.
Absolutely, that's another reason.
You
Yeah,
never
it's
know. And
yeah,
we had a thing with the Knights of Columbus where they were asking us if we were going to work with people under 18.
Mhm.
And we would get background checks and everything. And I opted just not to work with kids under 18 because not that I thought anything was going to happen. It's just the inference. And of course, Knights of Columbus are Catholics, which they don't have the greatest reputation.
yeah,
And we had worked with some Boy Scout groups and things like that, but their leaders are always there, the adults. And I just opted. And when, I don't like necessarily having kids under 18 on my podcast. And I have had one child under 18, and I was are your parents cool with this and everything? Because
right.
I'm going to drop an F-bomb. No doubt I'm going to drop one. So anyway, so how's business? So you said through COVID, which I'm super impressed by, that you didn't lose any students during COVID.
Well, yeah, you know, so it was actually my birthday weekend was March 15th was my birthday. March 13th, they sent the kids home from school.
Yep, I remember it well.
So my wife's like, well, where do you want to go out for your birthday? It was that Sunday night. I'm like, really? Forget it. Let's just stay home, you know.
Well, I remember that it was Friday the 13th. We got the
It was, yeah.
And I have two grandkids here, so I'm like, yeah, they can stay out for a week. I can handle a week or two, you know. And then it kept getting longer and longer and longer than the year.
And they should go back in another week or two, right?
Yeah,
because I think we're close to flattening the curve.
Right.
I think we're getting there.
Thank God they're back without masks. So back to your business. So you fared well as far as keeping students, and you went just remote, right?
So yeah, that day I'd never used Zoom. I've heard of it, never used it, didn't think it would work for guitar. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm out of business. First thing I'm thinking, I'm not paying my rent. The government's shutting me down. It's going paying around. It's just gonna go around. And that's that's the negative side when you think of things. So a couple of people talking about
that's the reality of things. I mean, we were all panicking. I mean, I had to go to the chamber and say, you guys, we're going to have a problem, right? I was running the chamber at the time, and you're going to need to look at the finances of the chamber. And I don't want the chamber to close because of my salary. Now, I thought that the chamber could have done some things like PPE loans and things like that, which they didn't. But the reality was, when that happened, we all freaked out and we're like, shit. I mean, I lost my job. My wife went remote, which was fine. She was able to work through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But having to switch from live, and so the Zoom thing. So I immediately went out and set up my house for Zoom, right? Because I wanted to look professional. I didn't want clothes on the bed folded or thrown, in the background. And it's funny, a lot of people didn't do that. They didn't get a green screen. They didn't get microphones. They didn't do anything.
You can see I did it.
Yeah.
But I did put a couple of guitar pictures on the wall.
Yeah, but yours is a little different. I mean, these are professionals networking that were, sitting in their bedroom or their kitchen, and people walking behind them.
I get it. Yeah.
Jumping on them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it was, but and then which led to the podcast, but we won't get into that. But so, how difficult? So funny thing. So did the parents still sit in on those Zoom calls?
That's funny. So anyway, first of all, I want to say I owe a debt of gratitude to the parents because not one family quit. Not one.
Insane.
And I think it's because
to you.
Well, maybe, but I also think it was a scary time. We didn't know, you wanted your kids to have some normalcy. So seeing me and seeing their buddies, because it's a class, so you'd see the other two kids.
Oh yeah, that's
online.
Good.
It gave them like things are okay. You know, the world's not coming to an end. So I think that was good. And then it just surprisingly, it just worked. It works really, really well.
And you're still doing some Zoom classes.
I would probably say 80% of my business is still online.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Yeah. Almost none of the people have come back for one reason or another.
So with that, did that open up more territory for you?
Absolutely. I mean, I have students in Idaho. I've had them in Florida.
Perfect.
I got some students that actually just moved to Japan, so I'm hoping to get them on. And then I will be an international guitar teacher.
But want to be 2 a.m. there or something like that?
Well, but I'm up to 2 a.m. here, so I think it'll work. I'm a night owl.
2 a.m. here.
Yeah, it'll be odd, but I definitely want to try it. But here's the other thing on the reverse side. There's 1 billion guitar players in San Diego, 5 billion across the country. They all have access to San Diego now. So
right, gotcha. So there's
if you're savvy, you'll find a niche no matter what.
There's as many guitar players as realtors then in San Diego County. I always kid about realtors, how many realtors there are.
Right.
So business. So we talked a little bit offline before this podcast about marketing and all the promises marketing companies make you and the struggles you're having just as a small business owner, right? Mm-hmm. You do entertain, but is that a side business or is that in concert with what you do?
I make more money teaching.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's going to change. I think as I get older, it's just time to focus more on what I really always wanted to do.
What genre would you say that you fall into? Like classical guitar?
So yeah, I got my degrees in classical guitar.
Okay.
And so the last 25 years, I've been trying to play classical guitar, Latin jazz, use all the stuff I learned in college, the theory and all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of background music. If you're not a great guitar player that can concertize, right, you're playing the backs of wineries and people appreciate you there, but they're not there for you.
So, because I was listening to it, you sent me on Spotify. In fact, I downloaded Spotify so I could listen to it. And yeah, it felt kind of classical to me. Have you played in rock and roll stuff? Have you done that when you were younger?
Yeah, so that's what I grew up. I mean, I grew up, loved music as a kid. And then by the time I was 10, 11, 12, it was like AC/DC, Van Halen, Led Zeppelin. Well, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, whatever. And then I heard Eddie Van Halen, and it was like, there was no doubt in my mind as a 12-year-old what I wanted to do.
So it's funny you brought him up because those are all the bands I grew up with, right? Still listen to them in the gym most of the time. And I always felt like Eddie Van Halen was the greatest guitar player I ever heard, right? And remember, I can't play guitar, but I always felt
my favorite
when he played. And then, but he never got those accolades, unfortunately, until he passed away. And it seemed like, I mean, it always, when I'd listen to an expert, it'd always be Hendrix and, all these other guys that went before Eddie Van Halen. I'm like, wow, I think he's pretty creative.
You're a few years older than me.
Yeah,
not much. Eddie definitely got his due. He was revered. Absolutely.
I just felt like, I always revered him, but I'd always felt like he was not getting his, number one status. And listen, it's all opinion anyway, right?
It's all opinion. But most people's opinion is
creative, though. That was the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. He was innovative and creative.
Here's something about music from an ignorant music person. I never realized how good of musicians rock stars were, right? So you listen to them and you see them out there and they're high or they're crazy, they're jumping around and everything. But now that they're older and I listen to them talk about their careers and things like that, it amazes me how good of musicians they are. Like Prince, for instance. He was
great.
He's just this eccentric personality guy. But man, when I listened to him speak about his musical knowledge, it was really amazing. Even, Motley Crue and Poison, all those guys, they really have they know a lot some music.
Right.
That sounds like a stupid statement, but you know what I'm saying? When we were
growing up, it's true. And there's some that don't, and there's some that do.
I always would know that difference. I would.
You do, but then there's music that I like where the guys probably don't know a chord from a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good joke. What the difference between a rock guitar player and a jazz guitar player? Jazz player knows thousands of chords and plays to 3 people. rock and roll player knows 3 chords and plays to thousands of people.
That's great.
So, it's just what it is. People don't appreciate, like, it's not that they don't appreciate them. It's pop music for a reason, because it's easy to digest. It's easy to consume. Classical music and jazz are not. People want to do it because it's cool, but it's hard to listen to.
I kind of related to this. I watch tennis, and people will say, "How can you sit there and watch tennis?" And I say, "I'll tell you why.
I love tennis.
I played tennis, and if you've ever tried to play tennis and you watch these guys and girls at a high level, you're like, that's almost impossible to do. I mean, the speed, the footwork, all this stuff that they do. And so when I hear music and people who can write music and they can write lyrics and all those things, that to me is, I'm just blown away by that, because I understand. I understand, because I don't know how to do it, how difficult it must be to be able to do that.
You got to put your time in for sure. Yeah. So going back to your question about, do I play rock and roll? I kind of did when I was younger. And then I got the classical thing, and then I've been trying to make a proper living. And then COVID hit, and my brother-in-law has a brewery up in Oceanside, giant warehouse, which was empty. He's not doing anything. So I bought this big amp, and I took it up there because I have nowhere else to play it. So I started going up there a couple times a week and just cranking that thing, what I always wanted to do anyways, right?
Right.
And then I got a step relative through my dad's wife and all that, but he plays drums. I'm like, dude, let's just jam, And now 2 years later, we're playing in a band, and we just rock out. It's so much fun. There's
you do that now?
Oh yeah, we just played last Saturday at the brewery up in Oceanside.
Oh, nice. What's the name of the brewery?
It's Oceanside Ale Works.
Okay, I've heard of that. I think I might have heard of that through your website too.
Well, yeah, and then the CD I did a whole crowdfunding thing, and some of the they're not gifts, they're the buy-ins related to things from the brewery, like mugs and free fills or something like that. We can't give free fills, so that's illegal. Dollar fills.
Let's get back to the so you have this skill, you've learned this skill, you enjoy the skill, still doing it after all these years, and then you put in a whole nother set of skills, which is business, right? And we used to talk a lot about this at the chamber, of how I used to see a lot of businesses come in, that people that were skilled, like whether they were cooks or musicians or whatever they were good at, accountants, whatever they were good at. But then there's a set of business skills that's a whole nother,
absolutely,
world, and sales and marketing and all these other things.
Absolutely.
And these smaller businesses don't have budgets for,
so
marketing and things like that.
Correct. And so I was thinking about it when I talked to you last week about it. So this over the weekend, I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Because I'm not a business guy, And I'm like, well, as a musician, you are never done. If you're a musician that loves what you do, you are never done till the day you would die. You're searching, you're trying new things, you're doing, it's never done. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're never done, right?
Right.
You're never done. You're always looking for new avenues, new products, new everything. And then you try to do both of them at the same time. Something's got to give.
Well, and I think I had done this one podcast on focus and how hard it is to focus on something. And I read an article, and I watched I watched a TV show the other day about focus and about I got it. I got to do it. And it was talking about that it's not that we've lost the ability to focus. It's that we don't take the time to focus, right?
For sure.
Yes, there's a lot of white noise out there that's keeping us from sitting down and doing what we need to do. And there's a word, the multitasking word, that they talk about all the time, and humans really are not able to multitask.
Yeah, somebody was just talking about that the other day.
They're not able to do two things at once.
Right.
And if they do, they're not good at either one. And so there's really that time where maybe, and I'm just throwing things out there, just having a conversation. And I need to do this too, especially with the podcast. I need to schedule an hour a week or an hour a day or whatever the commitment is, just to concentrate on marketing for the podcast.
Right.
I don't, and it irritates me because here I am preaching it and I don't do it.
Yeah, it was the same thing for me. It's like I go to those chamber meetings and you guys would get me all fired up on like a new book or a new app or something. I'd be like, yeah. So I go and we're all coffeeed up and I focus on that for 3 days and get it going and almost ready to launch it. And then it's like, I got a gig on Saturday. I got practice because I'm going to be sitting in front of people. Right.
Yeah.
The next 4 days, I'm like totally off that. And then you come back to it, you're like, yeah, there was problems there. I really don't want to go
You lose
back
your momentum.
past that. Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, you're here. I guess it's, we all cry that we're ADD. I mean,
Well, I was having a
I'm
meeting.
sad for the kids that really are, that we're just not focused, but
I was having a meeting with one of Carson's counselors, and they said something about ADD, why he was in the meeting, which irritated me. But I said, we didn't have that in the 70s, right? We probably had it, but no, we don't know what it was called.
Right.
So getting back to that focus thing, it's just, you're going to, in my opinion, any business is going to have to spend some money, spend some time on that focus. Now, thank God for the internet and YouTube videos and things like that, where you can go on and do some self-education on those things. I've just taught myself how to use a bunch of video software and stuff, and I'm making more videos, which I think they're impactful. Statistically, they're impactful.
Absolutely.
But you got to keep running them, right? But talking about the chamber, when you're doing that networking and that, what happens a lot of times there is you really have to concentrate on helping other people out. This is the theory anyway. And then they'll reciprocate. So I did a lot of business in the chamber with the moving company.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, that was just one of those businesses that people would call me. They didn't know anybody else.
Right.
Now, when you're talking about accountants or realtors, there's 18 realtors. Which one do you pick? Right.
Right. But at least they can send it to the other people and they get business that way.
Exactly. And there's not 18 musicians.
No.
But no one needs you.
Nobody needed it.
Every 5 minutes, right? They go, you got to be top of mind when they have the thought, right? When they're having
most of the people in the chambers, kids are a little bit older, so they're kind of past that age.
100%.
Yeah.
So, which takes me back to your business. If that's going to be your demographic, right? Did you say 8 to 15? Is that your?
8 to 12 was when I did that. It was 5 to 12 was the franchise model.
Okay.
My students stay with me almost till they graduate high school. I teach any age, but I don't like 5-year-olds because they haven't had a year under their belt. But go with what you were going with.
8 to 12. So you've got to focus in on that, and this is where Facebook can help you, I think, a lot, because you can choose those demographics. So then you got to pick the parent, right? So the parent's 30 to 40 years old. You probably have an 8 to 12, and that's where you got to focus that energy on.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So that was another thing. So I tried the Facebook thing, so I have to learn it. I have to figure out how to do it, which takes away from anything that I want to do, but you have to do it. And obviously I was not doing it right, because everybody I got calling me was from Chula Vista. I mean, you put your little circle, like I want.
So you're miles saying location-wise. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was like, and they're not driving up here for lessons. That was well before COVID. No one's doing Zoom. I never had good luck with that. So I can't say that I tried it enough, but I felt like I was starting to spend enough money that I wasn't having any success.
Well, and that was the marketing thing we were talking about, where those marketing companies come in and go, "Oh, I got you, Mike.
Absolutely.
If you just give me $5,000, we can do this." And then it doesn't work, and they go, "You know what? Let's give me $5 more grand, and we'll do it." And then you're like, "Fuck, I'm not giving you any more money."
Exactly.
It's not working. However, I think people call me because of brilliant marketing ideas. I still do that with Linda.
Mm-hmm.
They'll call me out thinking we're a marketing company, which we are, promotional products. And the marketing piece is more my self-taught, been around people. And they'll say, "What should I do?" And I said, everything that's free. That's the first thing that you should do in marketing. Because if you start spending money, you're going to get disappointed. Whether it's direct mail or it's, there's all these other things that you can spend money on that not necessarily are going to work. And then money's just going out the door. And it's just out of your profit, right? It's just coming right off your profit.
Right.
And you probably don't have a sophisticated budget, not because you're not sophisticated. It's just because you're by yourself.
Yeah. I mean, the money goes to me. It goes in my bank. I have a business account, but it's all me one way or another. You don't
have this marketing piece that's it's $10,000 a year I'm spending on marketing or whatever the number is.
No.
So, yeah, and that's something we can talk about offline. And I'm happy to do that because it helps me figure shit out. Because I'd love to help anybody out there that needs, to do marketing.
You were always helpful in the chamber. You were always helpful.
But so that's the one frustration. On the entertaining, See, one of the problems in your business and a lot of people's business is you're the guy, right? You can't
Yes.
send out, you don't have 3 musicians to send out and do that gig for you
Right.
because they're hiring you. And
Right.
so now time management becomes an
Well,
issue.
it's same with teaching. Everything I'm selling is me. So
Right. And if
I
you
make
get a
more work
cold
for myself, and then I don't have time to do anything else.
right, you can't call in sick, right?
My boss doesn't let me in.
The nice thing is that since you're online, you can do it if you had a cold. But if you had to go see
Yes.
somebody, you can't. Nowadays, you can't show up if you sniffle.
No.
So these are things you got to try to figure out a way to overcome. How much in the future do you want? So I asked you a question before we even started this thing, and hopefully you
Right.
thought of it. What does the perfect guitar ace model look like in a couple of years?
Yeah, it's so different from when I started, because I really thought, I tried to do retail and I was going to do just take over the world, like we said, right?
Mhm.
Honestly, right now, if I just need a steady stream of students, weekly students, and then I do classes like I do if you remember the Aces and Nails classes,
Yeah.
where you go like paint and wine.
Right.
But you get a pint of beer with your class, and I designed the curriculum for those things. They were so fun. Everybody had a good time there. I could have you as a total beginner, and some guy that can improvise and do all this other stuff, and we could all play together. And you're not going to get as much out of it, but you would have fun.
Yeah.
For $15 and a beer, and you get to kind of feel what it's like to play with a group of people. So I have these classes just to get the classes going. I have the business classes, like business wellness. I was doing Qualcomm for 17 years.
Well, that's an interesting concept to go to.
Yeah, because everybody has a wellness program, right, for
Yeah.
their people, and they want yoga classes. And a lot of people want to do guitar, and then they have to go home from a long day's work. They have to go change, play with their kids, and then they got to go, now I got to leave to go to my guitar lesson.
You work with charter schools, right?
I do, yeah.
So you know that my wife works for Pacific Coast Academy.
Correct.
So she does your invoicing or whatever. And you're still doing that?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I hope she's not the one that sees my emails come through.
No. she's going to listen to this podcast
Yeah.
and
I do appreciate those people, but
like Mathnasium does it too. Mathnasium goes through. Did you ever team up with him on something? I wonder if that would be an
he's a great guy. We've talked about stuff, but like we would trade things to put in each other's studios,
right?
Like flyers and stuff. But I don't think anybody ever came to me or went to him. Maybe a couple went to him. I don't know.
So have you ever thought of hiring another teacher?
Yes.
To expand that, that didn't work out, or
no. Well, the state of California said no.
No kidding.
Remember AB5?
Yeah, that's a contractor thing.
Yeah.
So I'm an independent contractor, and I'm a statutory employee, is what they call me now.
Okay.
But I'm still an independent contractor.
Okay. So yeah, and I think I don't know if that's even still a law, but for musicians are now exempt from that.
Okay.
It took a while, but it got it. So I was going to hire this kid, a Latin kid, Spanish kid, Mexican, I guess. He was going to teach them the after school classes that I did. Okay. I did not have time to do everything. I finally was like, where it's just not me. I could hire somebody, and he comes in, and I'm like, and they brought the AB5 thing, and I'm like, dude, I can't put you on a payroll.
Oh no.
You can teach class. I'm all, but you have to get an insurance policy. And he's just, he's a kid. I remember the same thing when somebody first told me that. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're super cheap.
Yeah.
But you're like, what are you talking about? I just want to go teach a guitar lesson. Yeah, well, yeah, some kid could trip on your guitar string, I guess, and they're going to sue you. But so, anyways, yeah, I was finally at the point before COVID that I was going to hire a guy to go teach classes, and with all that stuff going on, it just didn't work.
So, okay, so that's the possibility now, though, right? You could look at that again.
Yeah.
Or is it a pain? Is it too much of a pain in the ass? I don't know.
I mean, in a way it is, because if I would hire a guy to do that, it would be to save me time, right?
Right.
Like, why would I not teach the class myself and take the money? I would hire somebody, give them the money, they do it, but then I still have to set up the class. I still have to do all the work for the class. And then like this other thing, I have to pay them payroll taxes, and no way.
Yeah.
I mean, then I'd have to go online to learn all of that. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it.
Well, that's funny
Not
because one of
now. I
the
mean,
things people would always say, "Oh, Ed, you should start your own business." I said, "I don't know if I want the headache. If you have employees and you have all these other things, and then they're constantly, now they have this thing: if you have X amount of employees, you got to offer some type of investment program, and you got benefits, and you got all these
it's
other
insane.
things."
It's insane. As a business owner, as somebody that has the gumption to get up and do it and build something, you are now the government. You're doing
Right.
their job because you have to supply healthcare. You have to supply mental health days. Think about that. Think if I was the only guy, right, running my business, I hired that kid. He's like, I'm not feeling good today. I can't go in.
Or like a PTO, like a personal time off.
Yeah, personal time. And it's like, you're making me now responsible for that. And I still have to pay him. And it's like, why would I hire anybody?
Yeah, I mean,
I
you
would
don't
rather
have
take the
enough. You
cut
just don't have
down and
enough.
just
There's not enough money in it for you to do that.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
You
there's got
can't.
to be a breaking point of the money.
I don't know what you charge for lessons, but you can't charge $150 an hour. I mean, that's
Yeah,
in
no,
order for you to make up all this stuff. Yeah.
it's not even 150 a month.
Right. So that's a problem. Now, let's talk about that pricing. So a lot of companies I know, and you hear these on the radio all the time, where they're giving 10% off or 25% off. And if you start doing math on that, most companies don't charge enough for their service.
Right.
And they're saying, well, I got to be competitive. I'm like, listen, if you have a value to what you do, competition doesn't, matter. Now, you, I know that you're not just the average guitar lesson guy, right? You take a little bit more pride in this, and you do a little bit more, and you're a little more
Absolutely. Yeah,
educated.
absolutely. But people don't really care either when it gets down
Well,
to it.
Steve Jobs always says the customer doesn't know what they want until we tell them, right? Or he used to say that. Doesn't say it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's always something. But yeah, that's just one of those business things that I've learned over the years. And Allstate used to try to do that, compete. I said, don't compete like that, because you're never gonna win by being the lowest bidder out there. So, do you get a lot of referrals in your business through other?
Yeah, I'm 99.9% word of mouth, which is awesome, and it's scary because my students they stay with me for a while. I mean, I've never looked at the numbers, but there's not many students that don't stay at least a year. At least, I mean, and I'm talking years and years they stay. So when those people start going on, it's like you got to find new people to fill that void. And
well, and you brought that up earlier in the sales thing, where you're never done, right? And that's why sometimes I get sales to me starts getting old, because it's like, now I got to go out and call on new customers again. I mean, I've been doing this shit forever. Now I got to find new people. Yeah. So that's the thing. You have people aging out every year, right? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, they graduate and they're like, well, we really want to. They always want to stay through they graduate, right? Parents want them to stay until they graduate, and senior year gets really busy, so some of them kind of start dropping, or they go halftime, and then they want to stay when they go to college. But I mean, it's too hard, they got a whole new life, and so yeah, I'm blessed with the longevity of students, but yeah, it makes me lazy on the backside of advertising and marketing, and
yeah, because you got to get that new group of people in there.
Yeah,
I do.
I mean, it's pretty nice. I get these notes all the time on Facebook. I don't go on there much anymore, but somebody always asks for a guitar teacher in the community, right? Hey, we need a guitar teacher, and then it's like a lot of people who have my back, and some people I don't even know. I'm like, God, how did they know me? But it's awesome. And there's always me, and there's two other guys that everybody swears by, and it's like, it's cool,
Have you ever looked to do anything with the adult school at Poway?
Yeah, we've worked on it a couple times, and unfortunately, just the timing, it's not great. It would cut into my regular time, and they don't pay well. Like if you're a younger teacher, it'd be great.
I'm actually a teacher with Poway Unified Night School, but we tried a sales class last year and didn't get a lot of interest. And it was kind of sales 101.
Right.
Which I was kind of surprised we didn't get a lot of interest, but I would think that it'd be better for a company to hire, just to either have me come in and teach a sales class through Poway, because it's really inexpensive for them.
Right.
And if they're hiring young people that are in their early 20s or something, I could just teach them the basics of sales.
I agree. I think same with the guitar. It should be someone young and go getter that just wants to maybe get a couple students out of it.
So that
Maybe.
might be something to regroup with them, because they do a lot of stuff where you go to the company and they set it up for you, then they pay, and then you get paid through there. But like you said, if it's not a great paying gig, then if you have something else to replace it with, that's better.
Yeah, at best it would have been a sideways move, and then I'd just be transferring all this energy over there. I didn't see the upside on like getting students. What do you mean by getting going with a business like for a guitar?
What they do is
for you.
This David Guzman that runs the Howie Night
Yeah,
School,
I know David.
He will go to a company, for instance, like, I don't know, let's say a tile company that has 10 salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of sending their people to the class, the person would go to the like Excel or something. They would send a expert to the company, and they would do it in a group setting, and then they charge less per student.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was doing with Qualcomm, and I did it at what's the big company
back by? Get paid less going through Power Unified though.
But I mean, if it was worth it on the back end, sometimes you have to take a cut
if you got some people
for the greater good, right?
Personal classes, yeah. How many kids at one time, or anybody? How many in the class at one time?
So pre-COVID, it was 2 to 4 kids. Now I usually don't have. I mean, I just don't have more new kids coming in. So it's 3 is about the biggest class I have right now. The adult classes, like the aces and ales, the wine classes, you can get around 10 people easy.
So you're still doing those kind of fun things?
Yeah, we started those back up, and that's been a just nightmare to get people there.
Yeah,
I just put it on Meetup. I immediately got 50 people signed up. Don't know one of them because they don't come to the class.
Well, that's funny because and the same thing happened with networking. So after post COVID, or we're still in it, I guess, but post we can get together again.
Right.
I saw real people disengaging from coming to chamber events or things like that. Now, I think I did a better job at selling those events than they are now, but they're still not getting very many people at their events.
Right.
This Thursday, they have this pre-rodeo event, which I had 175 people pre-COVID there. They're not. Right. I don't think they'll have 100 people there this week.
Right.
And that's not on the chamber. It's on people just not getting re-engaged. I find that I get a lot less response via email, via phone calls, things like that when I'm out there trying to reach out to customers. They're just not as engaged as they were before. And it could be one of these things where they figured out they didn't need to get engaged and still did enough business. It's like in 2010 when they laid off all these people, and the economy got straightened out, and they're like, oh, we don't need those 100 people back. We just need 25 of them, so a lot of, and it could be that same kind of thought process that's going on now. You're going to need somehow, and I don't know how, you're going to need to find some niche or some value to changing the way you did things from pre-COVID. You and every other company, by the way. It's not just you.
And I've always been a niche guy. I've always done things that nobody else does, like teaching the young kids, having parents to the classes, doing the wine classes, the beer classes, the corporate wellness classes. Nobody does that.
So I know the answer to this question, but can it be proven? I think the kids that are involved in music from the earliest years they can be are better students academically. I think they're better thinkers. I think they're better problem solvers. I think they do. I think that with athletes too, serious, not the prima-donna athletes, but a normal athletic kid that goes out and plays in team sports. I think they learn how to socialize better. I think a lot of things. Is Absolutely. That statistically true for musicians that they're better students?
They say it is, and I should probably buy into that 100% because
that could be a real value to students. Like we live in my grandson goes to Westview, very academic school over here. And when I take him to school, a lot of kids carrying instruments. I mean, it seems like a higher interest level with kids that play music over at this school.
That's good. Yeah, power schools are big on it. I can tell you, like in my lessons, I mean, I teach young kids, and I can tell you, no kids practice. They don't.
Oh,
I didn't when I was a kid. You got to yell at them. It's a fight. You got to pick your battles. So when they come in and they didn't practice, we just go from where they're at. And I try to teach them in a not in an adult way, but like time management skills, self-esteem skills. So if kids like, Bum, I can't do this, like, dude, you can do it. You know, come on, let's do it. I think that's why the parents tend to like what I do, because they hear things that they wish they could tell their kids. And
well,
and
they
we're
can't
doing
tell them,
music.
they just don't.
Yeah, yeah. And then
If you go back to my YouTube channel and look, find this kid named Damani who's producing music. He's from, he goes to La Jolla Country Day. I think his parents were very behind him in producing music.
Right.
This guy's producing records. He's not even 18 yet.
That's great. That's great.
And he's really, and they taught him that he did piano lessons from very young. And he kind of stood out to me because his parents were very encouraging on that musical side of things.
So I said the kids don't ever practice, but they get really good. And sometimes I'm like, you didn't practice this week? It just sounds good. So somehow I keep it in their mind and they diffuse it, and they do practice. It's not like they don't practice, but it's a battle. But like you said, if you go on YouTube, there's little kids that shred.
Yeah, I've seen them.
They shred, absolutely. But it's because it's a family thing, and they live it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. I mean, you send your kid to me for once a week for half an hour. I think I get them pretty motivated on that, but that's all it is. You know, it has to be something at home too.
Is that all the lesson lasts, is 30 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, some people bump it up, but I'm teaching younger kids.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, start out with a half an hour. Everyone comes in like, we want an hour twice a week. And I'm like, that's more money for me, but you're going to quit. Right, I don't tell them that, but I'm like, you know, you can always build up to that. It's because it'll feel like a failure to the kid if you pull him back to, oh, we're just going to go a half hour or just once a week now. He's going to feel like.
I have a couple of my kids and grandkids are very artistic. I have musical kids, but more artistic, like drawing. And I really encourage that, because I think that creativity side of your mind needs to be fed all the time.
Right.
I think it helps you in the future.
It helps you with your problem solving when you're
100%.
Like, how am I going to do this business thing? It's like creative.
But, you know, as parents, a lot of parents, like you said, they just want to kick them out the door and go, you know, get gas and things. Don't you wish that music stores and music, you know, teachers were filled like the soccer field is filled on a Saturday morning, right?
Of course, yeah.
I think actually that music, art, all those other things are much more important than sports. Although I think there should be a physical aspect to your life.
Yeah.
I think every parent thinks their kid's going to be a professional soccer player, baseball, football, and all that.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're an old pro, I don't know if you're what the Scripps Ranch Old Pros is these guys that are 45 and 50 and they wear knee braces because they're beating the hell out of themselves.
Oh yeah.
At some point your sports career is over. And music you can do forever. So 100%. Art you can do forever. I mean,
so I was at the gym last night talking to this 23-year-old kid, telling him that he says, "Hey, I remember you used to go to LA Fitness and Poway." And I said, "Yeah." And we were talking. I said, "Dude, I'm 60 years old. I'm still," and this guy's squatting like almost 500 pounds. And he goes, "Well, do you squat?" I said, "Not anymore. I don't do that shit anymore. That's an ego lift, man. I don't do that. I'm just trying to keep moving."
Exactly.
Right? So we ride bikes and we do things. I'm just trying to stay lubricated and
exactly.
Move around, but
I want to be able to walk when I'm
right. And
I get 90.
I've had injuries, but they're not. You know, I don't have back problems or anything like that. But it's unusual at 60 that I wouldn't have those things after lifting. But I was just going to say something about this. So I think that part of your marketing, if you're going to continue to do more online or wherever you do it, we can talk about that later, should have this educational piece to it. You know, the other day I was thinking about millennials. I was driving and I'm thinking, everybody fucking hates millennials, they're lazy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, dude, we raised them.
Right.
That shit's on us. If I have a lazy kid, that's on me. Now,
and you know what though? But didn't the boomers think we were lazy?
Well, and I would say this to people too. My dad just called us dumbasses, right? I mean, there were certain kids in my group of people that I worked when I was 16. I mean, I got a job right away, and I worked before that. Yeah. Other friends of mine didn't. You know, there was one kid I remember. My dad wouldn't let me ride my skateboard till 8 in the morning because he didn't want the noise. right, for the neighbors.
Right.
And I would get out there at 8:00, 8:01, man, I'm riding my skateboard. And my buddy would come down at noon, coming down the street with a piece of toast in his mouth. I mean, I was just the kind of guy that got up and got out there and did stuff, right? I was always moving, always active.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right, you're right. The boomers we were just lazy fucks. They just didn't have a name for us yet.
Right. You know, it's funny. I was showing my daughter my old neighborhood, and there was this hill we used to ride our skateboards on all the time. And I'm going, yeah, we used to ride our skateboard down here. And she's like, Dad, that's scary. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, fuck, that is scary, man. How the fuck did I do that?
Did you grow up in Poway?
Well, kind of. I grew up in San Carlos.
Okay.
And my cousins grew up in Poway, so I was there a lot. Do you know where Cree Drive is?
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
That's where we used to ride our skateboards down that thing.
That's crazy. We did too. We used to catamaran. Remember when you sat on hands?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So my wife grew up right next to Cree. And then I was all over. I was in Poway since 74, so I was only 12 years old when we moved there. I mean, it was open space, you know.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we used to run around. Like the only thing that like between their house and Poway Road was like the AM/PM. There was nothing else to go to like down there.
Nothing to do. So anyway, back to business. So any other frustrations you have about business that other people might have? I mean, like I said, I don't want to say it's a problem. Your situation is that you're the guy.
Exactly.
Right. You don't have a team of people. You don't have all that stuff. So
that's good and bad.
Not only have to do all the business shit, you're the guy. If they need to hire somebody, you have to show up. So your time management's got to get difficult at some point.
It does. And, you know, I've listened to your podcast a few times and you'll go like, well, you talk about something and you go, oh, it's just a freaking excuse. And I think about it, I'm like, all the things that I bitch about, they're all excuses. I could do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I spend time on my phone that I could be working on marketing. You know, we all do it. So I don't know. I guess where's the motivation? I guess I'm not trying to take on the world like I was before. I think I've switched more back to the music side. I'd rather be playing a lot more as I get older and start teaching less. But I always want to teach. And right now I do. Yeah. Right now it's a big part of what I do. So,
yeah, well, I mean, and like I told you, this is not me coming from, you know, I have 4 Lamborghinis in my driveway that I'm taking pictures of and saying, if you do it my way, you can have these. This is my frustration too. I mean, I am the best at making excuses. You know, if I don't go to the gym, it's like, why don't you go? Oh, it's too early. Fucking fuck that. I used to work nights, man. I used to be up at 2 a.m. to go to work.
Yeah, and you never regret it when you go.
You never regret it. You never regret going to church or the gym. I always say that. You always get something out of either one of those places, even if it's just an internal thing you get out of it. And my grandson is pushing me more to go to the gym with him, to take him to the gym. So
how old is he now?
He's 15.
Damn.
You know, 15.
He's just a little baby.
I know, dude. He's like almost 5'9" too. He's like crazy. So this kid that saw us in the gym last night says, well, you had another kid. I said, no, that's him. So I used to bring him to the kids club and drop him off and go work out. Right. Now he's actually lifting. So I know times are crazy. So I have 15 grandkids now, and I'll have 17 by March. So you said you're a member of the chamber. Are you doing anything with the chamber at all?
You know, I'm not. I'm not. Like I always want to. I have good intentions.
Sure.
Tuesday mornings would be great. I loved that one when we used to go, but like I said, I work late. I mean,
yeah.
Once my wife and daughter go to bed, and no one's emailing me about reschedules and makeup lessons and all that crap, I'm free. I can practice music. I can write music, and I take advantage of it. And oftentimes, I'm like, "Oh crap, I gotta go to bed, man."
So it's funny you just said answer an email. So I don't have email alerts on my phone, but I'm on it all the time, way too much. Do you remember in the days when we didn't have cell phones or texting, and how many times would you check your email back then? Twice a day, maybe?
Right.
You know, we've gotten so bad. It's good and bad of getting back to people so quick.
Right.
That it takes up a lot of our time.
It does, because if I answer every email as it comes in, it's 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there. And then by the end of the day, you're like, shit, I spent 2 hours or you can take a half an hour and just get it all done at one time, you know, like.
Right. So that's another one of those focus, things. And I'm not saying that you need to manage your time better. I'm just saying that that's an option for you.
I do. I think we all do, but I
We
definitely
had
do. Yeah.
this woman came in and spoke at the chamber, and I was actually out of town when she came, but it was all about time management, right? How to schedule time. And I read her book, and she said the worst thing you can do is manage with your calendar on a phone. I manage everything on my calendar on a phone.
Right.
If I'm going to, like, this week, there's a longboard competition on Saturday. It's on my phone because I'm going to go down and ride my bike and then go to this longboard thing.
Nice. Why'd she say it's bad?
I don't, because she had some other formula in the way to do it.
Okay.
So, and I want to bring something up that you said earlier. Everybody's an expert these days. I got friends of mine on LinkedIn that are saying master, like, storyteller, right?
Right.
How the fuck are you a master storyteller? You tell stories and you're good at it. But now it's master storyteller, or, life coach extraordinaire. They'll add things on it. Everybody's a fucking expert now, but no one can really tell you how to do things. They can tell you the way they did things, and if they happen to be real successful, it won't work for you generally, right?
Yeah.
So
I think,
yeah.
I think in my case, I'm not a carnivore barker. I'm not PT Barnum,
Right.
And then I got to sell myself, which, I know what I can do, but I'm not the kind of guy that's going to be like out there just like, hey, I'm the master guitar player. You're going to do this. So I think if I had a job selling widgets and you said, this is what you got to do to sell widgets, I'd sell more widgets than anybody there except for you. And then I'd go home and I'd play with my kid and I'd be done for the day.
Well, here's what changed in my life. If somebody gave me and said, Ed, can you sell this widget? And I would say, well, you're asking too much money for it. Right. If there's 10 widgets and yours is number 2 of 10, you have to price it to number 2. And then I can sell it. Then I can say, look, if you buy that, you're probably going to have to replace this one 5 times before if you buy this one. So I became a lot more honest in business. It wasn't that I was dishonest. I just wouldn't give you all the information sometimes.
Right.
I want to make sure that whoever's buying from me gets that value, because I want them to buy from me again.
And that's how I am, man, for sure.
And you're like that with your students. I mean, if you're one of your parents, I'm guessing, called you and said, hey, you're doing a horrible job. Well, maybe my kid is a little autistic. How can I change the way I'm communicating with that child or whatever?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Not to change the subject, but yeah. I have parents that bring kids to me that do have, I guess, special needs,
Asperger's or autism.
Yes. And I don't know if they're ashamed of it or embarrassed, but they don't tell me. And it's like, it's hard because they look normal, and they are normal, but they look functional, and you treat them that way. And then it could be a couple months in where you're like, oh God, something's not right. And then what are you going to go ask the parent? Like,
yeah.
It's like, but I've had a couple go, he has a little bit of learning up front, he does better this way or this way. And it's so helpful. It's like, sure. Why would you be embarrassed? I don't know, but.
And that's a job, I always talk about sales being like, you're like a psychologist, right? You have to kind of figure out how that person assimilates information. Like
guitar teachers are bartenders as well.
I used to call on engineers. And if you go outside the realm of what you told them you were going to talk about, they kind of shut you off. And it's just their way their mind works. It's not a bad or a good thing. It's just what it is. So you have to make sure you know who you're talking to, right? I've said jokes before that insulted you that I didn't mean anything by it, but you have to understand who you're talking to, right? You have to learn that over the years. And that's where that knowledge and wisdom and experience comes in, where when you're talking to a child, and I can generally tell, since I'm around so many kids all the time, if there's that, maybe a tinge of some type of learning disability. Or sometimes you talk to kids that are so smart, they're listening to me going, this guy's a fucking idiot. I
have some students that I swear to God, I'm like, if you had the experience that I do, you'd be teaching me.
I know,
very rarely, but it's like these kids are so beyond their years.
So you got to recognize that sometimes with kids. And my grandson is into all this anime and all this. He knows so much information about this stuff, but he struggles at school sometimes, and it's not. He just doesn't like the school stuff. Right? It's what you're into that you like. If I try to get you into something that you're just like, this sucks. You're not gonna fucking, you're not interested, you don't want to learn it, unless I'm paying
Right.
you, you probably wouldn't be interested in doing it. So
So that's another thing I have to do. I have to create content to keep them there. Like the schools, they're going for 12 years no matter what. They
right,
don't
right.
have to come to me for 12 years. So I have to keep creating content that keeps the kid interested in coming. And that's a whole nother thing that I don't get paid for directly, right?
Right, right.
I get paid to teach lessons. I could be like any other kid and just go for the half hour and that's it. And that's all I do. But I'm spending time with my knowledge and background and years of experience creating stuff for them to do.
And I think this and all these little things we're talking about, Mike, are things that you need to include in your marketing. So one of the things I tell salespeople all the time is salespeople they're like eccentric, right? We're all fucking whack jobs. We all do things differently. There's no one way to sell things. You got to figure out your personality, the personality you're talking to. But we forget to tell people what we do a lot of times. We assume the person knows that we
right.
sell this product and this service and that. And I was talking to a guy one time and he says, "Oh, I didn't know you did that." And I'm like, "God damn, that's my fault that he didn't know."
Yeah,
Because I didn't at
absolutely.
some point articulate that we also have this service available. And these are some of those things where we need to figure out together. And I'm like totally willing to help how we can draw those things out of you to articulate to a parent where
Right.
it's gonna, and it could be, you couldn't be this blunt, I don't think, but is your child interested in music but feels that they don't have the confidence because of a learning disability or whatever you want to call it, whatever politically correct term is, then I'm here for you because I've dealt with that before, kind of
Right.
thing. You wouldn't just come right out and tell that to a parent. Yeah, because kids are going to accelerate at different speeds, and there's all kinds of different things, and you have to be less generic, I think, in your approach. Everybody
Right.
does, not just you. It's me too. I have to be able to articulate what I do.
And then here's the problem I run into being the only person in the business for everything is my writing is freaking horrible. So like I want to put my 10 ideas on a piece of paper, like I'm going to advertise it. And it's like, then I go back and read it. I'm like, God, I can't even understand what the frick I just wrote. I typed
Well,
so freaking bad that it's just like people think I can't spell. I'm like, I can spell, I just can't type. But then I'm stuck there and then I'm editing for freaking hours. And then it's like, you'll go to some chamber meeting and they'll be like, no, dude, just take these 2 points and that's it. And then you're just like, just spent hours on this fucking thing.
so that's funny. There's I just, those cartoon ads that like the
And again,
hands
it's just an excuse.
those cartoon ads, like videos that the people write. You'll see a hand come up and write.
Yeah.
So I've learned one of those programs pretty articulately, and there's a copyright piece to that where they'll do the copyright for me, and so I can just kind of type in what I think, and then they type in, they'll articulate it for me, or they have generic copyright things.
Mm.
Those things are out there, and there's also people that will do that, especially students in high school and college, that will do that copyright for you. If you have some ideas, they can do some
Right.
copyright. And you know what? Dude, yesterday I was writing a cover letter and I just went online and put best cover letters. Fucking 1,000 of them popped up. But it's back to that time, man. You're gonna have to, you gotta get a chunk of time out where you're gonna do that stuff.
You do. And like it just comes back to its excuses. It's like a kid that's afraid to try something on guitar and I can get him to overcome it. If I told myself the same things, I could overcome all these business things. Just kind of trust the process, keep doing it, work on it, get it done. Maybe get
So
some
I have
help.
this. So I'm developing this speaking platform where I can go to a chamber or whatever. And when I started developing the speech, I'm like, I had all these like canned things to tell people, but what everybody's life comes down to is what you're doing for yourself on a daily basis. And we brought this up a little bit during our conversation before. If you're not operating at a high level, you can't take care of your wife and your daughter and your students. And so you're going to have to block out some time. And usually it's when you first get up, or maybe it's that hour before you go to bed, where you're just working on Mike, right? Where
Right.
you're overcoming those little things and you got to break them down. I remember my daughter saying, I want to do this. And I said, look, let's just little chunks of goals, right? 5 minutes, just start next week. I'm going to commit 5 minutes to writing some new copy for a flyer or whatever it is. And you got it. And you put your phone in another room and just 5 minutes. Those little chunks is what those, they create holy moments, as I call them. As
Absolutely.
Artists used to talk about that. No saint was born a saint. They strung these holy moments together. And maybe it was, helping someone walk across the street, an old lady on a Friday. And then the next week you did it twice, or you did 2 acts of kindness. Right. It's no different in your life. If you want to go to the gym, you don't schedule 8 visits to the gym the first week for an hour at a time. You go one day. You just go tomorrow and spend 15 minutes on the treadmill. If that's whatever you're getting.
But that's what we tend to do, is we tend to cram it all in, and we're going to take on the world right up front, and then
but if you want to
nowhere to go but down, right?
And if you want to nurture those people and be that niche finder, you're going to have to. It's going to be crucial in your success to find that starting point, and maybe it's a 5-minute starting point.
So what I tell people, because that's advice for me, but I tell people all the time, when you're frustrated practicing, you're done. When you're done practicing, put in 5 more minutes, because all the pressure's off. You're done. You've done your practice, and then it's like, I've done that before too. I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, I'm just putting in 5 more minutes, and then like 2 hours later, I'm like coming off a cloud, going, whew. I got the visit from the muse. It was like great. It was just, those are the best practices you ever get.
I'd be coming back to the house at 3:30 or 4 o'clock and say, I'm going to make one more stop, just one more. I got more sales off of those one more stops than I ever did. And I know
there's no pressure. It's just an extracurricular. Like, if I get it, I get it. I'm going to go have fun on this one.
4 o'clock in the afternoon. The guy's like, "Fuck, are you doing here?" I'm like, "I thought I'd stop and say hi." And he's like, "Oh my God, that's awesome." Because he knows I started at 6 a.m. or whatever.
Right.
I had a competitor that surfed. So when the waves were good, I knew he wasn't going to his accounts. So I would always go to a couple extra accounts when the waves were good, because I know he was at the beach, and I got a lot of business that way. So here's the worst thing we do is we have great advice for everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't take our own.
Absolutely.
Right? So that 5 minutes you were talking about, you need to do that. And I'm not saying I'm saying everybody that's listening to this needs to just schedule that 5 minutes a week.
I absolutely agree.
And just do something.
Like what they say, if you're going to write, like to be a writer, just get out a big piece of paper, and if you can't think of anything, then draw a picture, and then something comes out. It's like, or you might get 2 words, and the next day you get like a flood,
So when I go to bed at night, my wife reads for about an hour. I lay down, she reads. I usually fall asleep. Last night, I said, "How long are you going to be up?" 20 minutes. I came back on my computer, and I finished a video because I just had a thought. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just getting up and doing it right now. Right. And it was bitching. It came out good. When I looked at it this morning, I'm like, that was what I was aiming for. So anyway, so I mean, like I said, we've determined that there's a lot of things you can do to change what you're doing now, right?
Absolutely.
So now that you get it. I don't care if you spell it wrong. You need to make a list on a yellow sheet of paper of 10 things you need to do,
right? And
what those benefits will be, right? If I do this, and I always ask people this question: if you ask yourself, what if I had, I don't know how many students you have, but what if I had 5 more students? What would that do for me? And you keep asking that what if, your mind physiologically will answer that. Right. So then you're going to answer it, and then that's why you need to get 5 more students. So if your time, like let's say if you had the opportunity, you live in Poway, right? Or you live in Scripps.
Yeah, we're right outside it.
But you got to drive to Oceanside how many times whenever you do that? What if that place was closer? What if you were doing it at a place that was closer? How much time would you save? And I know it's your brother-in-law, but how much time would you save if you could do the same thing, make the same money, but you're only 5 minutes away?
Oh yeah.
It's little things like that. What if I was able to, and that would help you, man. That would help with your time.
It does. But then I try to use the time, like if we're learning songs for the band, I'd play those songs on the way up.
Yeah,
and I'm learning them as we go. And so I try not to make it a total waste of time. So sometimes I look at it.
I used to travel in my car a lot, and I read so many books that way, right? Listen to books. I'm like, I can only listen to Howard Stern for so long, right?
Right.
But back then it was Dr. Laura. I mean, I listened to Dr. Laura
Jim
because I
Rome,
figured if I'm not as fucked up as these people on her phone, I'm doing pretty good. And I wasn't
right?
usually as fucked up as them, but so I would listen to books, and then so now I'm pretty well read because I was able to listen to these books while I was driving. So yeah, so it just comes down to time management. So I guess back to that question, what does your life look? What's that perfect Guitar Aces model look like? Is it more students? Is it? We know it's a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, if I
Performance.
keep those separate, the Guitar Aces, it's getting more, I guess, new blood, new kids flowing in, and adults. I mean, I teach adults,
Right.
But and then those classes I think are key because they're fun. They're kind of advertising in themselves. Like if somebody goes to the brewery or the winery where we're having a class and they see it, they might sign up for lessons. They might sign their kids up for lessons, not at the brewery, but regular lessons.
So how much time do you spend using those people as your demographic to advertise to?
I mean, I can tell you honestly, lately, I haven't been spending any time on it.
Okay, so that's an area that you want to, and you can probably get a list online of all the fucking dude. San Diego's like the brewery capital of the world, right?
Yeah,
like the microbrew capital of the world. I don't drink that kind of beer. I don't even know where those places are.
Yeah.
My life, we never really got out. Like I would never come to one of those things personally, only because I have kids. I'm still managing children, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's going to the gym or doing their home, kids doing their homework or whatever. So we don't really go to places like that.
Right.
She doesn't drink, so there's a lot of things why I wouldn't go. But those places are packed, aren't they, on a regular basis?
Sometimes, I mean, there's so many of them now that they're kind of becoming the corner bar. Each one's just their own corner bar. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I get people for those classes. Everybody I tell about it goes, "Oh my god, that's a great idea." I'm like, "Well, come on by. I'll bring you a guitar and like you play a little bit, right?" But they just don't. Not going to do it. I think people have a fear of playing music in public. It's almost like if you told them you're gonna come to this class and you're gonna public speak a little bit.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean,
it ain't coming.
That's
and then there's always one guy sitting there that knows one Eddie Van Halen lick, and he's gonna play it 100 times, and everybody else is sitting there scared as hell.
Yeah, I'm like, so okay, my wife doesn't my wife doesn't like talking in front of people. So if we're in a group and we're talking to a group, I'm the one talking. Right? I don't mind doing it all. In fact, I probably do it too much, but yeah, most people do not. There's an interesting thing. There was I was watching a video about, and it was for marketing about these little boards. Oh no, I know what it was. It was Shark Tank. He had these little whiteboards that you draw on, and he says, he'll go into a meeting and give one of those to every person in the meeting because people won't speak up at a meeting, but they'll write notes, and then he takes those back from them. So it's kind of the same thing where yes,
right,
they probably think they want to do it, but when they get there is some definite fear. But you said you had some success at doing it before, so maybe it's time to make up a really cool flyer and send that out electronically or take it to them physically, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's a lack of effort on my part, and for sure, I that's how I take it. I'm not leading people there. I'm putting it out there right now, but I'm not out there dragging people in.
Yeah,
and that's on me. Absolutely.
So like everybody else in the world, what you have to do. You just got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Myself, right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like the adults that come to me with the guitar, they want to play so bad. And I'm like, well, did you practice this week?
Right.
No, I was busy. And I'm like, I get it. We're all busy. I tell kids the same thing. I get it. You're busy. I don't care. Let's just start today. Let's go today. So you can always start, but if you don't start at some point, then yeah, it ain't happening.
Well, yeah, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great, right? So,
right.
All right. Any other struggles you're having in business?
No, I mean it's really good right now. I mean, business is where it's at. I can't say it's like a great business and I'm just killing it and we're opening up shops across the world. It's not like that. It's good. It's steady. I like what I do, so that's good. That's why I like listening to your show. That's why I think I tuned into it when I saw it. Is because you guys, when you're talking at the chamber, it always gets me kind of fired up. Like, I got to do it. I got to do it. But my problem has always been I leave there and then I lose the focus.
Well, I would always say to people,
and then I got a
they would
gig and I got to get that done. And
they would come to me and say, "Man, you motivate me so much." And I said, "Yeah." And then you go out and there's a ding in your car, right? Because some fuck opened a car on your door, opened their door on your car, and you forget everything I said. So that's kind of why I started steering this speech, which I'm going to start doing more, to really focusing on that person. And one of the things I asked the people to do the last time I did this was to put your phones away. I said, I know everybody asked you to do this. I'm telling you, put your phone away, because if you bring it out while I'm talking, I'm going to embarrass you, because
right.
you need to focus on yourself. I'm going to let you be selfish today. You never get to do that, right? Even after this whole conversation we just had, Mike, you still got to you have a daughter, right?
Yep.
You still got to take care of your daughter. Your wife's
Yep.
going to need you to do something. You have to do those things, but you gotta have to, again, that 5 minutes a day or an hour a day, you're going to have to focus on you.
Yep.
Because you're still not going to operate at 100% if you don't get your shit squared away. And that's most people. We all have somebody to answer to, whether it's, our kids, and not, maybe answer to is a bad way, but we all have somebody counting on us, whether it's an employer or a kids or parents or whatever. And unfortunately, my parents have passed on, but a lot of people my age have elderly parents now, right? That they're going to be managing those people too, as they should. But it's definitely a time killer, right? It takes a lot of time and thought out of your mind.
Yep.
So there's all these distractions we have. We have to get rid of those distractions somehow. And I would think that you could do that while you're playing the guitar. That maybe that's a good time when you're playing, that you're not thinking about all those other things. You're concentrating on what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely my me time for sure. It gets my head straight. It's I go to the gym, work out too, but like my head, like, you go to the gym and you get your head clear and you're good for the day. If I don't practice, or people that surf, if they don't surf, it's like they're just like, oh, they're messed up. It's like, if I don't practice for a while, it's like I'm not doing what I need to do.
It's funny, when Kit and I used to go to the gym alone without Carson, we would never talk to each other the whole time. We'd have headphones in, and she knew what to do. We all know what to do. And it was that time where I was thinking about all kinds of shit. Usually how irritated I was at the high school kids that were all gathered around one bench. But, you do get into that zone where you're just thinking about, and I'll listen to these. I was listening to a motivational tape one day, or CD, I guess. And, Christina from the chamber walked up and she goes, "What are you listening to? Those people yelling at you?" I said, "Well, to me, it's motivating, right? They're not yelling. I guess it would be equal to somebody listening to, music or something." I like that kind of stuff because it just makes me think of other things.
Right.
So, well, Mike, dude, this has been awesome. I know we could go on for a long time. I think we have gone on for a long time, but that's okay. People will listen.
I hope so.
I'm going to send you a link to this, and I want you to get that out on your Facebook page and share it with your friends. And so tell us about how we can get in touch with you with Guitar Aces.
Well, the email is Mike@theguitaraces, one word.
Okay.
But Mike Slayen, what's that? .com. Yeah. Okay. You can go to the website, www.theguitaraces.com, Instagram, The Guitar Aces, Facebook, I think it's on there. 619-249-6429 is the phone number. Honestly, for me, texting is the easiest way to get me.
Yeah. So texting, I can send you 95% open rate on texting when you're talking about marketing and people looking at what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you could buy a list of parents in that demographic that you could text them. You never know. Something we can talk about later.
That is something to look at. It's too easy though. That's too easy, right? I got to make it hard on myself to struggle. I have to be the one that finds the way to reinvent the wheel. No.
So the Guitar Aces, you're in Poway, you do online lessons and you do live lessons still?
Absolutely. We're starting to. Right now I got a studio in my garage, so it's wide open air. Everybody's doesn't need a mask unless they want one. Yeah, so some people are starting to come back. I can do it online. So if you got friends in Japan or wherever, we can do lessons. And anybody that wants guitar music, any kind of weddings, corporate events, I'm
that's right.
good for that too.
So you played at a couple chamber events where you were just kind of the background, playing background.
Yeah, I mean, it sets a really classy vibe for your event. People are like, oh, wow, you put the little extra into it, and Yeah, it's not super expensive. It's
So something we didn't touch on, we were talking about this the other day, was doing charity events.
mm-hmm.
Um, Mike does not work for free. And I'm telling he would might say he does, but I'm telling you he does not work for free because we can't,
uh,
because
I'm
his
getting there.
time's valuable.
Yeah,
So if you want him for your event, you can contact him at the Guitar Aces. He told you on Facebook, online, and he can give you rates and tell you all those things.
yeah. The old joke is everyone who wants to give you exposure.
Mm-hmm.
My doctor said I need to keep the exposure down. It's bad for your
Exactly.
skin.
Well, I told you we're not UNICEF either. I don't work for free, so
Yeah,
eventually you're going to get some money out of your pocket. But
right.
Anyway, but not on the marketing side of things. If you want some help with that, we can chat offline and come with that. So anyway, Mike, thanks for being on. Stay on. Don't get off yet when the recording stops.
All
This
right.
is Ed Franklin at the edfranklin.nolimits podcast. Contact me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. If you'd like to be a guest, we can talk about a wealth of whatever you want to talk about. If you want to promote your product or event, that's fine with me. And we can always just chat it up. So thanks for
Yeah.
listening, and I will see all of you soon.